Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Catania. I'm the host of Future of AI. It's a podcast where we spotlight the founders, builders, and change makers shaping what's next in artificial intelligence. Today's guest is Ram Bulusu, founder of Warp9 AI and former head of AI at Sanofi. Ram has led real-world AI deployments in some of the most complex and regulated environments. And now through Warp9 AI, he's helping teams build practical plug-and-play Gen AI tools that deliver impact, not just hype. Welcome, Ram.
Great to be here.
Let's just dive in because I have a list of questions. AI is such a big hot topic now. For you, I don't think so much. You've been in this space for quite a while, which is why it's so exciting to talk to you. I think you're going to be a little bit more well-versed than others. You've been head of AI at Sanofi and now founder of your own company, Warp9 AI. How did that transition shape your view of AI's potential and real-world settings?
Yeah, so to be clear, traditional AI has been around for 50 years. So I was working with IBM Blue and other early tools and natural language processing for quite a while and machine learning. When Gen AI came about, it was like AI on steroids. The adoption rate, the capability, and the explosion in power was so fast, it took all of us by surprise. Being in Silicon Valley, I've certainly been very close to a lot of my classmates from the Indian Institute of Technology, where I went to school years ago. They're all now heading various companies here in Silicon Valley. And as I observed how they were thinking about Gen AI, I've never seen anything get adopted that fast. And I've never seen a tool that grew so much in capability in so short a time. So I've spent 35 years of my career in the healthcare industry, most recently with Sanofi. My mission has been to use technology to improve patients' lives, better products to market, solving problems, making things more efficient, in the end, making patients healthier. And when I saw Gen AI come about, the power was so much, it was so exciting, and we were able to do a great job just in the last few years in the healthcare industry to directly improve business processes using Gen AI. At the same time, when I looked at where there was a gap and where I really thought about driving into a startup mode, which is what Plan AI is, I noticed a pretty large gap in what big tech was putting out there in terms of Gen AI tool capability, whether it's ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini, Vertex, etc., or to a lesser extent, Claude from Anthropic. The tools were very powerful, but there was a very big gap between what they were claiming the tool could do and what a healthcare professional like me wanted to see for implementation. So I thought, okay, this gap needs to be addressed. And that's kind of what drove me to Offline AI, whereas I'm going to take the tools that big tech is putting out there for Gen AI with my expertise in the business processes over 35 years in various aspects of healthcare. I want to bridge the gap by creating a plug and play tool set that can directly be deployed in companies like Sanofi, Johnson Abbott, and other companies. So really my thinking has been, I don't want to go create a new Gen AI tool because big tech is doing that. How do I take them, apply it in specific healthcare contexts? And that's really shaped my thinking on how Gen AI tools for the Walkline AI customers.
Wonderful. Yes. And over your career, could you share a few meaningful, the AI-driven projects that move beyond that proof of concept, delivered real impact, maybe how that's affected you?
Sure, yeah. Now, when I sat down and wrote a Gen AI roadmap for a $50 billion corporation in the last 2 years, I don't want to say the name, but everyone expected, including top level leadership, the CEOs, that I would talk about innovation and creating new drugs and all these things. And I said, that's not how it's going to work. Goal number one on the roadmap was to automate repetitive tasks using Gen AI. Goal number two was to reduce errors. Goal number three was to reduce labor and cost. Goal number four was to reduce headcount, unfortunately. Goal number five was to reduce the cycle time from lab to the patient's hands for new products in medtech and biotech and biopharma. With that approach, I went to each function within the organization. So some of the most unglamorous examples give you the best benefits. For instance, when I engage with other leaders in this large organization, when I met with the head of quality control, so what kind of challenges are you facing? So when I need to cut costs, okay, what are you looking at? My biggest cost is for 27 statistics PhDs, so running my global quality control stability sampling team. Well, what do? They evaluate the raw materials and the finished products and see how stable they are on the shelf or the refrigerator, and then determine a path to putting an expiration date on the bottles that we get in Walgreens and elsewhere. So very unglamorous, very established function. But over this last several decades, most healthcare companies have brought in $250,000 salary PhD statistics to do a great job with it. Now, that became very expensive. 27 people, $250,000 salary plus benefits. And what do? They put in expiration dates. So I spent about a week on the floor with them, observing what they do. And I noticed that they were spending a vast majority of the time punching algorithms into Microsoft Excel, decay rates and half-lives and whatnot, and saying, oh, because of this product's going to expire in December of 2027 or what have you. But I said, okay, this company was a standard Microsoft player. They use Microsoft for Teams and Office and so on, which gives you Microsoft Office Pro, $30 a month per user. So I brought that in. I engaged Microsoft Copilot directly with Microsoft Excel, and I found that out of the 27 people, we were able to let 24 people go and replace them with Microsoft Copilot. And the accuracy rates actually went up from 97 to 97.6%. It took 6 months for the full deployment. It created a certain amount of tension, unhappiness, misery. Once people got wind of what I was looking to do, they dug their heels in and refused to give me information on how the actual process works. And so the human element was challenging, but the benefit was, I was blown away. I had no idea that we could get that much benefit out of it. The lesson overall that I got from this and other examples is any professional in any function, especially in healthcare, they do their job by following a set decision path in a standard operating procedure. You could take something anybody in the healthcare company does and draw it out in a decision path because they're supposed to follow the decision path for the FDA. That's great for a structured output. That's terrible if you want to be secure in your job because anything that's a structured path can be replaced with an AI algorithm. And that same example repeated, I was able to replace manufacturing supervisors. I was able to help reduce the number of out of specification results in the manufacturing floor by using predictive analytics. The systems are already in place. For instance, in manufacturing, there's a system called PI. Its job is to constantly look at every sensor on your manufacturing line and record what the sensor is telling you. Here's the pH, here's the temperature, here's the line speed, here's the thickness of my filament, here's the concentration, etc. But they don't do anything with that information. When I brought in GenAI, this time using Claude from Anthropic, he was able to create a prediction and say, for the last 17 months, batches that had a pH between 7 to 7.2 had a 97% success rate. Batches that fell below 7 pH had a 76% success rate. So then we came back and noticed that the pH didn't drift instantly. It drifted over a few seconds. And the AI algorithm was able to beep and say, your pH is still in spec, but in the next 2 hours at the current rate, it's going to go out of spec. We stopped, made an adjustment, thereby preventing batch failures. The data and information is already there in a different format. It is not being used or is being very manually handled. You bring in GenAI. What can GenAI do? It can process massive amounts of information with high degrees of accuracy and provide you a reasonable prediction with a human in the loop to confirm. Practically every example has been like that. One example, which is also very boring, very effective, is every healthcare company uses standard operating procedures which tell people how to do their job, which means every leader and every employee, including me, had to read 1,200 standard operating procedures every year and certify that they read them. Even if they change by one line, we have to reread them. And that's done through a learning management system. And a vendor who charges a lot of money creates PowerPoint presentations from those procedures, makes you read them, gives you knowledge checks. And I said, PowerPoint, Word documents, I have an idea. So we brought in Microsoft Copilot to automatically read the standard operating procedures and create PowerPoint presentations and propose specific knowledge checks. We're able to reduce the headcount for this European biotech medtech company by 67%. We let the learning management system and learning and development team go because we're able to automate their tasks. So great success, but the thread is very unglamorous, quiet functions that nobody pays attention to. We didn't innovate anything. We just reduce costs, reduce errors, and reduce headcount.
Amazing. I think that you brought up one of the biggest components, what people are worried. They're worried about their jobs. They're worried that it's going to come in and take away their jobs, which you've had firsthand seen. I have another take on it, and maybe you can explore that a little bit. I think once you can say, okay, we can do this bigger, better, and faster using this AI product. Maybe these people can be working on something else and really kind of elevate the workforce in a way where we're not looking at it as a detriment. We're looking at it as an actual thing that can help us, not only processes, but with the people, maybe exploring different paths to increase the workforce in a different way, just going in a different direction, so to speak. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So there are two parts to this, right? Like I said in the roadmap, I said, here's the Gen AI roadmap. We're going to automate repetitive tasks. Okay, we're going to reduce errors. We're going to reduce cost. We're going to reduce headcount. Then we drive innovation. The savings we create in the first four steps in headcount, in cost, and speed of operations, reduce error, the savings we generate through reducing waste and scrap matches, we can put that into the innovation piece. Gen AI is not yet capable of driving hard innovation. Generative AI is a great slave, but a terrible master. You could say, well, how do I take this capital and human capital, financial capital that I've saved and redeploy to drive innovation? Does that mean that every single QC stability person or L&D person that we laid off could start creating new drugs? Potentially not. But I could take that headcount as a leader, as a CEO, and say, I can hire more scientists, or I can work with a Microsoft or Google to create a clinical trial acceleration Gen AI tool. So you're absolutely right. Now, let me be clear. There will absolutely be a number of jobs. I'm estimating 27 to 36% in the healthcare industry that are going to not be needed anymore after 3 years from now. That's just the reality of it. So when people ask me the question, well, am I going to lose my job? It's not so much AI is going to replace you. 3, 5, 7 years down the road, generative AI capabilities are going to be fundamental to every single job. You can either choose to be afraid of it and try to resist it and get pushed out of the way, or you can choose to embrace it and enhance your skills. Even if you get laid off here, you can go somewhere else and get a job. So it is better to embrace that Gen AI is here and try to gain some mastery of it and find a place where you can be useful. Gen AI can do a lot of things. It cannot do your business process thinking for you. That's what you still have to do. So it's a bit of a hard truth, but I mean, to a CEO, 100,000 employees are 100,000 employees. Whether they are half are clinical trial people, half are doing routine work, it's still going to cost me something. So I'm going to look to get the most value out of it. Yes, it'll cost some jobs. Gen AI can forgive me for saying this, trample over people who resist it. But if you embrace it, it can only elevate you.
100%. I want to touch on a couple things with regulation, the Gen AI capability gap in healthcare, and then regulatory and data privacy risks. That's a big hot topic right now. What steps can AI founders take to start small but stay compliant?
So rather than start small, I would say start right. So the interesting thing about the healthcare industry is that every function in the healthcare industry is controlled by some regulation or other. So for instance, all the electronic data management that is submitted to the Food and Drug Administration of the FDA is controlled by a regulation called 21 CFR Part 11. That is the underlying regulation for all computer systems that the FDA holds purview on. So you can't say, I'm going to create this tool for software analysis in Silicon Valley for websites and then automatically then apply it to clinical trial data management. It doesn't work like that. So it's not about starting small, it's about starting right. You say, I'm going to build this tool from the ground up specifically to address the requirements of 21 CFR Part 11 regulations. I'm going to put 3 extra months into it to design it, put the sort of guardrails around it. Its application will be very smooth across multiple functions. Same thing with HIPAA in the insurance industry. So it's not about starting small, it's about starting right and purpose building your Gen AI tools with healthcare in mind. And remember, healthcare has 4 different buckets in it. There is the payer, which are the insurance companies. There is the provider, the hospitals, clinics, and hospital and the labs and whatnot, and doctors. And then you also have the biopharma companies that produce the various products. And finally, you have the contract research organizations like Lonza and Charles River, who contract out a lot of the research done by this pharma companies. So you take those 4 buckets, the regulations that apply in each area are very different. So if you say, I've got this healthcare application, well, what part of healthcare are you talking about? Are you talking about hospitals, healthcare providers? Are you talking about payers? Are you talking about biotech? the regulations are different. So you're going to purpose build your tool set for each of those categories. Each of those categories is what, $4 or $5 trillion a piece in terms of global revenue. So you'll get your returns.
100%. Let's talk a little bit about go-to-market strategy. So you have your own podcast as well. So I definitely want to talk on that. And I will link that so other people can listen to it. The GTM AI podcast. You said, nobody cares how great your tech is. Show me what business problem it solves. What shifts do you see in AI that's being sold today, and how should founders adapt?
That's a great question, one where I have a lot of passion about it. So there are two types of go-to-market models in the AI space. One is the most common go-to-market models is what I call the T3 go-to-market model. That is tech to tech. When a tech company like Google sells their AI capabilities to Oracle, you have a tech company selling a platform with capabilities to another tech company who has the personnel with the wherewithal to understand, configure, manipulate, recode, do whatever they want to do with the technology. So that makes sense for them. But that approach is what big tech tried to do with healthcare, and it failed miserably. Because, for instance, when I took Microsoft Copilot, tried to get to understand standard operating procedures on filter positioning for biologics manufacturing, the initial success rate for Microsoft Copilot was less than 17%. It had no idea what the document was saying. It was never trained in healthcare language. So the type of go-to-market strategy that I'll look at for healthcare and all other non-tech industries is what I call TNT, tech to non-tech. When you're a tech company like a Google or Microsoft selling to a non-tech company like a Johnson Sanofi or to the federal government or to the Transport Administration, you have to understand they are not tech companies. So you have to give them plug and play tools. You cannot give them a platform that they have to then configure. That's what happened in the beginning, and people lost interest and there's a high degree of disappointment right away. That's when this thing of, hey, big tech is hyping things up. So tech to tech works when you're selling a platform to another tech company. That is T3. TNT, tech to non-tech, is far more important because more than 90% of the world's companies are non-tech, less than 10% are tech companies. You've got 10% of tech companies trying to produce something they expect 90% of the world's companies to use. You have to use a TNT, tech to non-tech go-to-market model. The tools have to be plug and play, not just for healthcare, for Transport Security Administration, transportation, automotive. If I talk to my buddies in say, Toyota, they have the same problem. Hey, Microsoft's giving me this thing, they say it's ready to go. I don't have time to program it. I need them to give me something plug and play. So tech to tech versus TNT, which is tech to non-tech. I find myself sharing this feedback with a lot of founders that I advise. I have, of course, imbibed that advice myself. It's been extremely positive. What my customer says, wow, you're giving us a tool that it's like a process. Well, that's because I do know your process. I'm giving you something that works. So that takes away the headache from the customer side of deploying that tool. You build this exactly for my needs. Plug it in. Wow, it works.
Love that. Can you walk me through a time when the Gen A demo completely surprised your team? And then what did you learn from it?
So I think one of the demos that we did was around product quality for what are called timed release capsules. So these are capsules that you take and they disperse the active ingredient in your body over 24 hours or whatever. You'll say, Ali will say, we will give you this product that'll push your headache away for 24 hours. That's because the tablet they have slowly disintegrates in your body by various technologies and so on. So it lasts for 24 hours in your body, keeping a certain level of active ingredient up. And so when we were looking at that, this was for one of the world's largest global generic manufacturer of oral solid dosage forms, that is pills and capsules. And so they were having a challenge where they felt that the market pricing was as high as it was going to go, and they needed to find a way to increase the margins. Their revenue base was set. They didn't know what else they could do other than outsource to cheaper parts of the world. They tried that a few years ago. Unfortunately, that ended in disaster because the quality in some cheaper parts of the world is you get what you pay for. People got sick and didn't work out. They got sued. I said, okay, you've got a facility that's running right now in the East Coast, which is an expensive area. Let's take a look at what generative AI can tell us and what can we do. So this was a very specific example of capsules that this is for cold medicine that contain different strengths of the active ingredient encoded in different thicknesses of sugar. So when you swallow it, the thin sugar coating melts faster and thicker one lasts longer, etc. Pretty straightforward. And when we applied generative AI tools, partly using Google's Vertex model, partly using Claude's Anthropic for the automation and control system, what we found was that the coater that actually puts the sugar on top of the little pill globules, the coater wasn't running at peak efficiency. It was splattering a lot of sugar onto the little globules, and some of it was splattering onto the manufacturing line. Yeah, it happens, right? So when we had GenAI observe it and predict what savings could be achieved if we were to tweak that sugar coating process, one of the recommendations that came back was, it actually said on the screen, thickness too high. I'm like, what is the thickness of the actual layer? I said, no. When we did the analysis, it said the thickness of the liquid, the sugar lotion, was too high. So as it mix more water in it, it makes it thinner, so the splatter gets reduced. So that said, okay, that's going to reduce about 17% of wastage. That 17% of wastage over 1 year, over several billion pills, was $437 million. It blew us away. I had to check and double check and triple check the numbers.
Wow.
So this is the kind of thing where generative AI has the ability to look at a lot of data and make information out of it. I'm a smart person, you're a smart person, but if you look at a chart with 20,000 lines, you can't make sense of it always. But this was something that completely blew me away. And this is the web-enabled Gen AI tool, so I was able to go into the web, do research, come back and say, okay, the concentration used by various other companies for capsules and oral solid dose with this much, your concentration is too high, why are you doing this, and what happens if you reduce it. And of course, when we saw the information, what we had to do was go back and do a pilot and test it. Is it really true? Could it really be that far off? And then we came back and said, well, so this was one that blew me away. I didn't trust it initially, saying that's a very large number. But when we went and understood how the algorithm is working, some Gen AI tools run within your infrastructure, some are open to the web. We used the one that was open to the web. So I was able to go and compare sugar level concentrations and thicknesses across different products in different countries, and came back and said, wow, this works. So that just blew me away.
Wow. Very, very impressive. The human and AI equation, you have said you can't have your software tool making a final decision. You need a human. How does that principle influence your AI product design?
Yeah, like I said earlier, right? Gen AI is in the healthcare industry, it's a great slave, but a terrible master.
Right.
Today, and maybe even 5-10 years down the road, I seriously doubt we would ever let generative AI make its own decisions and go into execution without a human checking it. In the healthcare space, the Food and Drug Administration has said for the last few years, they embrace and support the use of AI tools in all aspects of healthcare, as long as the final decision is not made without a human. A human has to be involved in the loop for the final decision. But the predisposition and the positioning and the listing of options can and should be done by AI if it's going to make your business better. So what you have to do is, when you design any Gen AI tool, you create a decision path. What is the Gen AI tool going to do? It will observe this, get data from here, etc., and it will make proposals of these options, make recommendations. And the next decision block will be which human is actually going to come and plug in the final decision, yes or no, or go back to redo your process. Both based on the regulatory environment and based on the risk to patients. We want to make sure that there's human in the loop for final decisions. Gen AI is not yet capable of making those decisions. So I would equate a Gen AI tool to a very bright, very smart, young Ivy League educated employee who's entry level, who just started. They're smart, full of potential, but they don't yet have the experience to make critical decisions. Not because they're not smart, but because they've not yet lived the life to know what the negative outcome could be of a particular decision that they make if it involves risk. And always in the healthcare space, you make a mistake, 1 million patients could die. That's a level of risk we should not hand over to a tool. I mean, I'm not even sure that I'd want to sit in a self-driving Tesla right now. Someday, maybe, not yet.
Same. We're aligned there. So where do you see industry-specific AI heading in the next 2-3 years? Will healthcare models differ dramatically from finance, manufacturing? What do you see?
So that's interesting, right? The future of successful Gen AI deployment is directly dependent on industry verticals. Now, when you compare industry verticals, I created a finance industry vertical to predict stock price picks. I was able to make some good money out of it too. And I've used standard big tech tools to work in the healthcare space. I did both of them by using Microsoft Copilot. Interestingly, what I found was 90% of the underpinning of the tool was exactly the same. It's what Copilot gave me. The remaining 10% is what I put on top of it. So industry vertical Gen AI tools are a must. You're going to see that those explode in the next few years. You're also going to find that less than 10% of industry vertical tools differ from each other based on the function. So it's, especially with Walkman AI, our focus is we want to take what big tech gives us and tweak it a little bit and apply it. So I'm not interested in going and creating a new AI algorithm because Microsoft and Google and others are very good at creating the smarts of the guts of the actual Gen AI tool. But how do you actually apply it? And perhaps you need a slightly different LLM to train it for a different kind of language or different kind of terminology. So less than 10% will be different across industry verticals. More than 90% will be common. But industry vertical Gen AI tools are the way to go.
Nice. Gen AI today feels like version 0 with big leaps coming by Q1 2026. What exactly gives you that confidence?
One, because I know I'm working on several of those. Two, because the power of generative AI has been exponentially increasing month over month. In the December of, say, 2023, December of 2024, when I tested Google's Gemini, it wasn't really able to do much for me with industrial coding. But 3 months later, after a spirited debate with one of the leaders in Google in the Gen AI space, I had a Zoom with him. He actually said, okay, challenge me right now. Put the prompt in here. Show me how it works, Gen AI Vertex tool. And I said, give me the code for an Allen Bradley programmable logic controller for a large molecule biologics, 2,000 liter steel manufacturing by 275 degrees centigrade, clean in place cycle. And it said what brand, what versions, Allen Bradley, etc. It gave me 90% accurate code the first time out. I was blown away. I'm like, whoa. And then he said, here, let me show you this. I asked him, can your Gen AI tool understand a video of an operator working in the lab or the manufacturing floor? Tell me what is doing wrong. It actually projected an image from YouTube showing a person working an oil pipeline. And the tool came back and said, this person is not wearing a helmet. That's not safe. So the reason that growth is there is because the Gen AI tools are being trained on the millions and millions and millions of hours of video and audio available on the internet, much to the chagrin of the creators of those videos. But the end result is Gen AI is like a baby that's learning super fast. And every single month, it's exponentially becoming more powerful. And we have some of the smartest people in the world working on it. And let's not forget the financial potential for the businesses that are working on this. So capability, demonstrable increase in capability, and my own experience in the industry and the thirst in healthcare industry to deploy Gen AI to get hard value. Every single CEO of a big healthcare company, these are my customers, they've told me, Ram, we have made commitments to Wall Street. We're going to reduce costs by this, such and such. Got to happen in the next 6 months, 12 months, or my job's on the line. So I said, well, you can use Gen AI to do this. And the individual business case are working very well. So take all those things together. We almost have no choice but to continue to drive forward. So I would say it's happening already.
Wonderful. Too fast. So some advice and recommendations would be great for first-time founders, maybe building AI solutions. What would you say is the single most important but overlooked step?
I would say that for any founder who's working on building a Gen AI business, focus on what customer benefits you're trying to deliver. Let that be your mantra. Nothing else is more important than that. Because otherwise, you're going to create a very cool tool and you're going to go on and on about how cool your tool is and nobody really cares. Because if you go to an automotive manufacturer, or healthcare, or a biotech company, I've been on the leadership boards of these companies for many, many years. I know what we're thinking about. How can I cut costs? How can I bring manufacturing back to the US and still have lower costs? How can I reduce errors? Research my industry. And if you want to serve my industry, come to me with very specific solution sets. Do a POC. If it works, then build a tool for that. So start with what benefits you want to deliver to your business, then the tool will take care of itself. But if you start with the tool first, you're some smart kid with PhD from MIT and you did this great thing in your lab, your professor gave an A grade, you want to build a company around that, you're going to fail because you never thought of the tool. One of the things I find founders doing is they take a product, they take it very close to its completion stage, then they start pitching it. I'm like, you're doing it backwards. Meet with your customers first, have them part of your loop, have them sit in your customer advisory boards, which is why a lot of companies in big tech reach out to me to be on their cabs, because tell us while we're building it, how can we fix it? So focus on business benefits, build everything around it. That's continue to give the guidance. Not everybody listens to it. Some people have already failed by not listening to it, unfortunately.
Awesome. Find the problem, solve the problem. Wonderful advice. Which books, papers, frameworks have you been most influenced by with your AI deployment? What would you recommend? Something sticking out to you specifically.
So I would say that this is probably a disappointing answer for you because I'm not much of a book reader. I go instead by experience. I interact with a lot of founders and I focus a lot on failures. I go out of my way to seek people who failed or models that failed or businesses that failed. And I seek people out, meet with them and say, what happened here? Not why did it fail? What happened? Can you walk me through the process? I find that you learn a lot more by seeing a failure than you ever do from a success. And so I find I learn a lot more than that by reading books. I would say if you want to learn about your industry, look at other people who failed before you in doing what you are trying to do. And the information will be absolutely invaluable. But don't go and say, tell me why you failed. Just say, tell me what you did. And I find that has been extremely helpful. If I look at the academic papers and things, I'm not much into those and I've never found value in those.
Nice. I love that answer. You're learning what not to do. That's fantastic. And then wrapping up a little here, if you could go back and whisper one piece of advice to your younger self, your day one Warp 9 AI, what would it be?
One of the things that took me by surprise, in my business, I have 3 lines. One is the service business, when I help biotech leaders deploy specific Gen AI models for business benefit. Then there's a VC advisory and the startup advisory that I run on demand. Third one is to create actually applied AI hardware products. And my hope initially was to focus on the hardware products. I'm passionate about those, but I never realized exactly how much of my time, at this point, it's 150% of my time is going toward the service portion. Because the thirst in the healthcare industry for people who understand the healthcare industry well, who are good with technology, who know how to deliver strategic business benefits, there's a huge amount of demand for that. And other than me, I can't think of maybe more than 1 or 2 people who are able to be trusted at that level in the industry. So I would whisper to myself that maybe build a team that is going to be staffed more for the higher volume service business, which is not what I wanted to do, but that's really took me by surprise. And it's draining my energy. I'm spending way too much time on it.
What excites you most about Warp 9 AI's next 12 months? Would be like my final.
Yeah, so there's a couple of products I'm working on that are very exciting.
What's in the future?
I've already started. One is called Anchor, Ankor, Anchor AI. And that is a 3D telepresence avatar for reporters to go to war-torn areas or floods and areas, project their image, and interact directly with the people who are there without taking on the risk. You can be in a war zone with that bullets hitting you.
I love that.
Something that, in fact, a VC called me about it yesterday saying, hey, we'd like to get more with this. Fantastic. But I want to say, help people from getting killed, right? And I want to be right in the thick of action. That's one. The other one, this is something a bunch of the Stanford undergrads trying to become my interns to work on. I found a way to actually solve immortality, and it's not hype. Many times you think of a kid, hey, I didn't know my great-grandfather. I didn't know my grandpa. He passed away. My mom passed away. By using phase 1 gesture recognition to look at the videos and pictures of that person and create an image initially in software form on your iPhone to talk to your kids and grandkids like that person would have. That's step 1. Step 2 is to work with the humanoid robot creator companies, which are already existing, and download this personality into those brains and put some facial features that match. So you're going to actually have, it's called Replica AI. I was going to call it Sixth Day, but Arnold Schwarzenegger in his movie, but I've had a problem with that. Biblically, they say God created man on the 6th day. So today, I want to be able to use Gen AI so that your children, your great-grandchildren, 10 generations down can look back and say, who was Ram, my great-great-great-grandfather? Well, here's a robot that's walking and behaving like him and looking like him, interacting like him. That's how you solve immortality. And to me, especially now, everything we do is on video and audio anyway. We can use that to create a bot. The software piece is easy. Collaborate with the hardware humanoid robot companies and put the personality in there. And next thing you know, you've got your old grandpa walking around. Somewhat ghoulish, but the point is, this one really excites me. I'm kind of working on this. A couple of young Stanford computer science majors are looking for internships with me to start working on that particular gesture replication process. That's the first part. Second part will be to actually download the humanoid robot.
That's incredible. Going from helping companies saving millions and millions of dollars to something so purposeful, and that's just incredible where you've gone in your career, and you really are leaving a legacy. 100%. Very incredible.
That's very kind of you to say that. It's
Very incredible.
It's so much fun. Gen AI is the most
Love
fun I've had in
100%. I like that a lot of people don't know what's going on, and some people are scared. And I think this definitely conversation showing that there is so much exciting things that can be done that we don't even think about. And it's just what a pleasure it's been talking to you, and very exciting. I can't wait to see all this come to fruition and more to come, I'm sure. And helping inspire other people to delve deeper into this is pretty exciting. So thank you again, Ram. I really appreciate your time. And I definitely would hope we can have more conversations in the future.
But thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for giving me a platform, and you have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.